So I think setting the stage for where air sensor technology is going, we have to look at the history of air monitoring. And before about 5 years ago, the air monitoring that was conducted on a routine basis was done by governments primarily, and this monitoring continues today and will continue in the future. And these are networks that have air monitoring stations with high-cost technology that requires a specialist to operate it. And it's considered gold standard measurements, very, very carefully conducted, specially trained personnel that are keeping a very close eye on the equipment and on the data coming out of that equipment. And that's what's needed to have the data that's appropriate to compare against regulatory standards. You need this very carefully conducted, high accuracy and reliable data. And one of the issues, however, is that level of effort is hard to do at a very fine spatial scale. So there's usually only a few of these stations in any populated area. In the United States, where I live in an area that has multiple small cities, and there are only maybe 5 or so air monitoring stations throughout this fairly large geographic area. And so that leaves gaps in knowledge of what the air pollution concentrations are in between those places. And the same goes for Hong Kong as well. So when you think about where someone travels in a city, they may be close to the monitor, they may be far away from the monitor, they may be in indoor environments a lot of their day, or in a subway, or in other places where they're exposed to some portion of outdoor air pollution, but the value at that monitor may not be the same as what they're actually breathing in at that moment. And so that's where there's a lot of interest in this emerging air sensor technology. So when we talk about air sensors, what we're talking about is new technologies that are miniaturized, and that they're designed to be integrated systems that may be very portable. Some of them are wearable technologies, or they may be something you could carry around, a little bit larger, or they may be sensors that are put onto building infrastructure in a city. And so you could have a network of cities, and that's what some people are referring to as part of a smart city design, is to have these sensor networks. But what some of the challenges are is, as you miniaturize and you're also trying to get the price point down so you could have all of these technologies out, there's a lot of questions about the quality of the data from those devices. So what are you losing when you're going from these conventional high-cost networks run by specialists to these wearable consumer-grade monitors? And so that's an area where there's a lot of interest, because there's that missing field of information, concentration information, but where a lot of research and development is needed. Worldwide, this technology is growing really fast. There's a lot of growth of technologies like this in the private sector, which is unique. In the past, this type of monitoring, air quality monitoring, has mostly been done by government institutions, and now we're having a diversity of new entrants into air monitoring that may include citizen scientists, individuals that are just wanting to measure their own exposure, academic groups putting out networks, private sector putting out very large networks in some cases, and the technology is moving really fast, where there may be new technologies coming onto the market every few months. So some of the R&D needs is understanding the quality of the data under all the different use conditions. So if I have a wearable sensor and if I'm vibrating and I'm in a car, or I'm going through a sudden change in temperature going from outdoors to indoors, is that causing any artifact or any error to the reading? And another major issue is, how do you communicate and interpret that data to the individual? So in the United States, most of our standards for air quality are on long averaging timeframes that are supported by a body of health research. And so some of these technologies may report values on a second-by-second basis, or a 1 minute by 1 minute basis. And the developers are trying to convey some kind of information to the user to help them with their personal decisions, to understand, is this a significant high level or not? And so that's an area too of a lot of needed work. And so some of the most innovative work is actually happening in Hong Kong. There is a number of projects that are happening at multiple universities here, where there's prototype sensors being developed and deployed for exposure research or put onto vehicles, buses going around the city, or trams going up and down, I think Victoria Peak. And also looking at, how do we communicate this data to the public? So an example a few years ago was they put sensors out for the Hong Kong Marathon. And they actually were using that data with a lot of careful quality assurance as part of the communication of air quality conditions along the running route. And so we're in the US, we're doing a lot of R&D, and we're trying to share internationally with Hong Kong, and learn as well from Hong Kong and also from other areas in China about this rapidly developing technology.